on the one hand, we're told more and more these days, right? As women, you've got to lift heavy, you've got to go for progressive overload, you've got to go hard. But on the other hand, we're also told, listen to your body, prioritize recovery, like don't push when it doesn't feel right. And I think for a long time, like I found that very confusing, And so so after that injury, I knew I had to get clearer for myself. Like, what does that mean for me day to day?
So without further ado, let's dive in. Lena is fresh from the platform. Let's dive in and talk about that journey to becoming the person, the athlete that you are. What did fitness first mean to you when you started with the Wonder Woman?
So when I joined the Wonder Woman, I was already hooked on lifting. And my definition of fitness had shifted from doing a ton of running and cardio to prioritizing weightlifting. So I kind of spent the previous year or so building this foundation with dumbbells and learning proper form, like through another program that I was working with. And I actually was shocked that I found the whole process incredibly empowering and really kind of addictive. Like I had never lifted weights in any meaningful way or consistently in my life. And in fact, I kind of went out of my way to avoid lifting weights because I didn't enjoy it. So I eventually found myself outgrowing that program over time, and I wanted to keep progressing, keep learning, keep challenging myself, and I wanted to learn how to work with a barbell. And I knew that I loved that feeling of I loved the idea of getting stronger, and I felt like the barbell was going to be part of that journey.
Did you see something on like Instagram, or did a friend of yours, were they doing barbell work? Like what? How did that?
Really.
No?
No, I just thought it was so badass. I just thought I want to learn how to do that.
It is badass.
Yeah. And I love learning new things, and you combine that with like doing something badass. Like I knew I wanted to do it.
And you did it. When did you realize that strength was more important than being small? Because a lot that's a big hurdle for a lot of people. And you're Asian as well. And I don't know how much there's a cultural disjunct there between encouraging you to be more small and more reliant maybe on a male strength. I don't know.
No, that's right. Well, I'd never really struggled with my weight, so I didn't come into lifting with a focus on size. But I'll be honest. I mean, when I started working with the Wonder Woman, Annie, my coach at the time, immediately put me on a little mini cut, and I dropped this little bit of belly fat that I'd had since I was a teenager. And then all of a sudden, like I could really see my muscles. I could really feel them working in every lift. I could really almost see that change daily with the videos that I would record and send to Annie of my exercises.
How long was the mini cut for?
It was maybe like 6 or 7 weeks.
So super short. And you said some belly fat from when you were a teenager?
I mean, I'd always had that since I was a teenager. And then, I had a couple of kids, and I just thought it was something it was just me. Yeah. And so that was a real turning point, not just because I looked different, but because I found it so satisfying to build strength. And so like strength and size kind of became connected for me. Like the aesthetics were this reflection of the work I was doing to stay active and train with purpose. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I've never, there is sort of this message that you get as an Asian woman that being small and like delicate and demure is like such a good thing. And I've just
Which is not you.
Yeah, I just never fit into that, right? I mean, I'm tall, like I'm outspoken, like I started out my career as one thing, like I was a board certified physician, and then I left that behind. I left clinical medicine, even though everyone around me,
I'm sure it was shocking.
My family, like,
what are you doing? You're wasting your life.
Yeah, and they were like really in their own way. So many people were like pushing me to be small, to like continue living a small life,
not rock
the boat.
Mm-hmm.
So, since then, I mean, that was over 25 years ago. Like I've changed careers. I've built businesses. I've taken a ton of risks.
You look 20. I don't believe it.
53,
Seriously,
53.
you look like a Benjamin Button.
But it's like, I I've now learned that like doing a lot of scary things and is like is so rewarding,
You're
and you come out
alive.
the other side, right? You come out the other side and you can't help but realize that like um I can take up space. Like and I think like that's a thing that you get not just as an Asian woman, but just as a woman in general. Like, don't take up space. Um, don't speak loudly. Don't ask questions. And I think lifting and now powerlifting has really given me permission to say no. Like, I'm allowed to be strong. I can take up space, and even when I was at the meet, for example, like there's a lot of like super strong women there, very experienced women also competing and getting up onto that platform. Like, I still had to tell myself, I deserve to be here. I can take up this space, and even as someone who's learning, like I deserve to be here.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what role Annie played, if any, in shifting your mindset or helping you clarify.
Yeah, she did. So Annie, who was my first coach, she didn't just give me programming and my macros. Like, I remember this team call where she talked about the benefits of getting clear on your core values. And there was just something about that that really stuck in my head. Like, I hadn't really formally done that before. Like, I had a sense of what my core values were, but I didn't really like sit down and like put pen to paper and write it out concretely. So I did spend some time really working on that and going through some exercises to figure them out. And I landed on 5: structure, boldness, joy, growth, and connection. And once I had that framework, it was pretty amazing. Like, it just became a filter for everything, like not just lifting, like it just changed how I made decisions, how I spent my time, what I like decided to give my energy to. And so I would just recommend that to everyone. Like, it's just so like, take the time to figure out your core values, because it can just become this incredibly strong compass for so much of your life.
Yeah, and intertwining too. I know at TWW we start with the physical because that's the hook, right? Like lose those 5 pounds or 20 pounds or whatever, get your health back. But we really underscore the importance of the mindset transformation that has to happen, especially if you want lasting transformation. The mind's got to shift. There's no way. I mean, it's so unlikely unless you're really lucky. It's just so unlikely that you're going to be in your 50s and 60s, and if you haven't done mindset work, that you're really living according to your values. Because life is so hectic, and a lot of times, we make decisions in our youth that we continue to live our lives by because we're invested in it financially, relationship-wise, et cetera. And to be in a community of women that are actually embracing that kind of a deep growth, that gives you that long-term success that's really never ending. You never have to stop growing.
That's so true. And you're right. Unless you get clear on sort of where you're headed, it's too easy to fall back on sort of like, old habits and old ways of doing things.
And just reacting, right? Just surviving the day.
Just reacting.
Yeah. Especially when you're
Exactly.
successful, right? When you're successful, it's like pow, pow, your calendar's full. You got all these things to answer to. And when you are encouraged to take a step back, do some self-analysis and some deep work, it accelerates, it amplifies all the work you're doing physically. It just amplifies it.
Yeah.
What's your training now? What's your training why now versus when you started? Has it changed, or is it?
Yeah, it has changed. So 2 years ago when I joined TWW, like my why was, it was kind of about like, I wanted to progress. I wanted to learn something new. I wanted to build on my strength foundation. And I still want to do those things, but now it's more about alignment. Like, am I training and doing things in a way that reflects who I want to be? Does this serve my values? So I'm just much more intentional now. And I think a good example of that is that at the end of 2024, when I was seeing so many TWW women competing in bodybuilding, right? You just see it all over social media. And I just found it so intriguing, fascinating. It looked like a ton of hard work, but it also looked like a lot of fun. And so I thought, gosh, like, is this something I would want to do? And I really took some time to think about it because it really did interest me. And I thought about it, I meditated on it, and ultimately it just was a no, at least for now, because it just didn't kind of check off all those core value boxes for me. And I just realized that dedicating that amount of time and energy to something that was not fully aligned with my core values just wouldn't be worth it. But then when I started learning more about powerlifting, like I just, yes, it aligned with my core values, but it also like I just felt this kind of like spark and this excitement and energy. And especially I think for me, like when it sparks that joy, then I know it's something I should seriously consider doing.
Yeah. It's all about getting that hell yes, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's good work to do too, because you do not want to go into contest prep chasing something that's not
Yeah.
really what you truly want to do. It's a lot of sacrifice.
It's a lot of sacrifice. And it's so incredible to see you and other athletes up there like doing your thing. And I just know it's not something you can go into casually. Right.
You shouldn't really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You shouldn't. A lot of people say, oh, I wanted to tick that off my bucket list. And it's like, there's so many other things that you could do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And powerlifting is incredible. I recall so viscerally my own meets and just the hoot and hollering, the chalk, the nerves, the tension, needing to go to the bathroom in your singlet. Like,
Yes.
why?
Oh my
The
gosh. I did have to go
camaraderie.
so many times that day. It's just like, 5 minutes every time.
Yeah.
Just like
I've
on and
been
off,
there.
on and off, adjusting.
Yep.
Yeah.
The commands, like everything happens, and you're like, shoot. I remember doing the bench and thinking, did I wait for the commands? You go into this kind of like weird space, right? So it's exciting, and doing things like that. I like to say it takes us. They're big, hairy, audacious goals, and they take us as far away from midlife or what we're sold as midlife as possible. Like you're so on fire, you are so alive in that moment.
Yeah. And I would love to see more women our age, right? 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s, like doing things like powerlifting. Like it really is, um, it's so empowering. It's quite actually accessible in the sense that if you can train consistently, you can get your squat to depth, you can pause your bench at the chest. Like there's no minimum. There's no minimum weight that you need to be able to lift in order to participate and get onto that platform. So I actually think it's open to a lot of people.
Yeah. Okay. So let's segue into we'll circle back to your experience with injury. Let's dive right into stepping out of the platform because we're here, right? So we know what pulled you, right? It was in alignment with your core values. You wanted to push yourself. You love a goal. You like to take up space, and that's this is all about that. So let's keep diving in here. Like, were there any shifts, any mental shifts that had to happen during NEAT prep? Did you have doubts that you had to overcome?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the biggest mindset shifts was realizing that there's such a big difference between what a calculator says you should be able to lift and what you can actually hit on the platform. So
Up or down?
for people, yeah, exactly. So for anyone who doesn't know, like there are these 1 rep max calculators out there that they can estimate your heaviest lift based on what you can do for multiple reps at a lighter weight. And, it's a useful tool, but it really doesn't account for the mental game of standing in front of that bar with those heavy plates. That can feel pretty intimidating, right? And so I had to, I had to work just as hard on my head as on my body, like learning how to stay calm, like to really trust my training and to walk up to that bar thinking like, okay, like I got this, I've done the work, I've got this. And so much of that work in progress really happens before you even touch the weight. Like that was a big shift for me.
Did that happen during your kind of peaking block where you're working more on triples and doubles and singles? Where did you
that was
work on that skill?
exactly it. Like, because there's, it's one thing to do 10 reps at, like 190 or whatever, and then to do like, you know, 215, 220, 225. Like it, it's just, it can be intimidating. And so I had to really get confident in the work that I had put into it and, really prep myself mentally.
What are some of the for you? What are some of the can you relay like a kind of an aha moment where you're looking at that number that you're supposed to hit and you're really like walk us through that, when you saw that 215. I'm assuming you mean the deadlift, or you're talking about the deadlift,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've been doing 180, 190, which is still heavy, but it's not the same when you get into the 200s. What I can, I remember when I was working with Chad Wesley Smith, a fabulous coach, and we were, I think, 8 weeks out of a meet. I'd hired him, and 2 weeks into that, and I had just done 192 first sets of 4 on the squat, and all of a sudden I see 215 for a double, and I'm like, is he crazy? Like, is he trying to kill me? Like 215, I've never even done 200. Like, how am I supposed to do? And it was like, and I was actually hyperventilating almost. Like, I'm sure if I'd had a blood pressure cuff on, it would have been like, 160. This is the night before I saw my numbers, and I had trouble sleeping, and anyways, I ended up doing it, not very well, but I did it. And then the euphoria, like, I just did this thing. So can you walk me through your experience? What was it like?
Yeah. I mean, well, if we take my deadlift, for example, lots of up and downs. Like I'd say even 6 weeks out, I was still, my form was pretty inconsistent. Like at the time, my PR was 215 for 3 reps. But I did that in 2024, like about a year ago. And so I was gradually like working my way up, and I got to a point where like, I don't know, my form I just felt like I totally lost my deadlift mojo. And I would go up to the bar and it would be like, I don't know, like a 200, 205, and I just wouldn't be able to lift it. It was like,
Interesting.
just like my form was off. I knew it was my form because then I would, like, in the same block, I would go and do a really, really heavy block pull, like 2.5 inches off the ground, right? So not a lot of difference, but there I was pulling, 225, 230, 235. And I'm like, what is happening? And so I really had to, it really was really hard on me mentally because I would keep on pushing myself on the deadlift and trying to do it over and over again. I would go up to the bar, just have this surge of adrenaline and not be able to move it. And I would do that like 5 or 6 times. And I was just like, I don't know what's happening.
Frustrating.
So, super frustrating. And what kind of panicked me was like, is this going to happen at the meet?
Yeah.
That would be terrifying. It's just like if I lost my deadlift and just was like up on the platform, not being able to move it like even an inch. And so I really had to go back to fundamentals. And I think like that is the thing that I learned, that as the weight gets heavier, like you cannot hide from those fundamentals. You've as the weight gets heavier, like the issues with your form starts to come out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for
you can't
me,
compensate.
it was like, yeah, right, exactly. So like, and even with my squat, which was always been challenging for me with my body type, right? I'm tall with long femurs, and then with my deadlift, even though like I was previously the most confident about my deadlift, like it was just inconsistent. So that actually gave me a ton of clarity. It really showed me where my gaps are, not just in my form, but again, mindset, like how I respond when things feel off. Like I used to think that I could just power through things, but now I'm just much more focused on like skill and precision and,
Music to my
like,
ears.
what's that?
Music to my ears.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And like strength is great, but if the mechanics aren't there, like it's just not going to hold up under pressure. It's just not.
Yeah, and you risk injury, especially if you want to be doing this in your
Yes.
70s. And we'll touch on that. So it sounds like what you really learned through that whole experience was how important technique was. How did you figure out what was it that you're doing wrong? What was missing? Was it the slack? Was it you brace?
It was
Total body tension?
I think it was actually the block pulls that helped me adjust my form, because as I was watching myself on video, noticing that I was sort of leaning back a tiny bit and allowing that sort of leverage to work for me, I started bringing that to my deadlift, and that really was what made the difference. And then like all of a sudden, like, I mean, I don't want to say it was effortless, but it just felt so smooth. And so that's
Beautiful.
what kind of turned it around for me. But honestly, like I was DMing, Nikki, the coach that helped me get to the platform, as you know, like Nikki, and I was like Googling and on YouTube and on, ChatGPT, just like, I've got to figure this out.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like your torso positioning needed to shift.
Yes.
You may
Yeah.
have been a little bit too much over your bar potentially.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's what it was.
Yeah. Good. I love how tech, right? How the smartphones have democratized learning, technical learning. It used to be
Totally.
you'd have to go to a clinic, an expensive clinic, and have somebody look at your biomechanics and blah, blah, blah. But now you can, and I talked about this on my, who was I talking to? I'm talking to a gal from Super Age about why I see gals getting injured and what gals need to think about when they start getting into fitness at a later age, right? And I say, like, hands down, biomechanics. And now we're so lucky that we have these smartphones. We can look at ourselves and analyze our posture, how we're moving when we're doing a squat or when we're running or when we're doing a hip hinge deadlift. And on social media, like Dr. Aaron Horschig's account, Squat University, we can look at what it should look like. He's tons of great shorts, and we can analyze, like, do I look like that? What is that person doing that I'm not doing? And of course, at TWW, we give you a ton of information too. We try to continually to give information on taking the slack out and how to create total body tension and pressing through all three corners of the feet and all that jazz.
Yeah, exactly. It's
never
so
ending.
important to just get that coaching. Yeah.
It's never ending. And also make sure you keep notes, right? Because if you do leave a lift and come back to it, which it doesn't sound like you're going to be doing anytime soon, but I have left lifts and come back. When I do competition for physique competition, I might stop doing deadlifts at a certain point in time or benching. And then I come back and I've got these great notes and I drop my videos into my notes too. So it's like I'm not starting from ground zero. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I was feeling when I was doing that thing. And that's what I was thinking about when I was doing that thing. And you slide right back into it. And
you're building these dossiers for yourself.
You're building these dossiers for yourself. I love that,
that's
dossiers. So you want to keep competing. The goals evolved. And I know we talked about that offline, but you want to share with the audience. So when you first started this, like roughly in the first few months of training, can you remember what your lifts were when you first started with Annie, barbell lifting, what your squat, your bench, and your deadlift?
I mean, I had never barbell squatted in my life. And so I started with the bar, and I was definitely not going to depth, right? I think my quads were really weak. My posterior chain has always been fairly strong, but my quads were weak. And then I've got these long femurs. So I didn't know like what to do with my body. And so yeah, I started with the bar, and I was probably stuck in like the 60, 70, maybe 80-pound range for a while.
Is that before you asked Annie to use one of your coaching calls to be in your home gym and analyze?
Yes, yeah.
Help me. You're like, help me, Annie.
So for the listeners, like that's I do, as with everyone in TWW, like everybody meets with their coach by Zoom, once a month, y- and I figured like I can use that time for what I need. And so what I would do is, I've got a home gym, and so I would take my laptop down to my gym, and we would do live feedback sessions. And what I remember dedicating at least a couple of sessions to squat because I was struggling with it so much. So that was my squat. Bench, again, had never barbell benched in my life. Started with the bar. And
Those awkward do you still have those videos to chuckle about?
oh yeah. Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy to look at. And then
so
deadlift,
cute.
I started, I don't know, with maybe 100 pounds.
Wow.
And
So
then
you had
just sort
bumper
of worked my
plates,
way up
right?
from there.
You had bumper plates?
Yeah, bumper plates.
So bumper
Yep.
plates for the listeners, they are plates that are as big as a standard 45-pound plate. So it would put a lifter in the same position as though she were lifting 45-pound plates. So it's really great to get people that are new to lifting to practice the correct start position versus being on small diameter plates. So they're called bumper plates. And they also are more forgiving on the floor. They don't clang and bang as much. So if you do have a home gym, they're just a really great investment.
Yeah, it was a great way to get started. And then I sort of advanced from there and did all the variations.
What did you end up doing at the meet? So that was when you first started. And
Yeah,
then
so that was what I said. Yeah. And then, so at the meet on squat, I did like close to 127. For bench, I did a 90, like close to 94. And even there, it was a little strange because I had done 100 at home in my gym. But when I did a 99.7 at the meet, I didn't hit that one.
how close were you? What happened? Was it you missed the call or you got stuck?
No, I just couldn't get it off my chest. I mean, I got it a few inches off my chest and I couldn't get it all the way up. And then I hit 231 on my deadlift.
Nice. And you're a conventional lifter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how much do you weigh?
Although I'm thinking about, experimenting with sumo.
Sumo?
It seems like.
How much do you weigh?
Yeah. 127 now.
Great. So you pretty much squatted your body weight?
Yeah.
Perfect. And then bench, that's really great actually. 94 for that weight. That's a really great. And how long have you been lifting for now, like barbell lifting? Because did you start with barbells right away with Annie?
Barbell? No, I did. I really was doing dumbbells for a while, and I probably got started in like August, September of 23. So it's been almost 2 years.
Perfect. So what are the future goals? What are you aiming for? Some big numbers, I think, right? Well,
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I love the idea of getting stronger, and I also love a goal. Like I find goals very motivating. So I kind of like am thinking like, what's a good way to combine those two? And I started to explore what it would take for someone in my age category to qualify for nationals. And so, as you know, they base it on the total amount of weight that you can lift across those big three lifts. And so for my age and weight, the minimum total is 589. And so I would need to go from like 450, 455 to 589. And so, that's a big difference. But I started thinking, like, what if I gave myself a longer time period, like, say, 2 years or so? Like, I know I'm a hard worker, I'm consistent with my training, like, I prioritize recovery, all the things. Could I actually do this? So, I'm talking to Nikki now about like planning out some goals for each lift, talking to her about how we might get there, right? Not just grinding, but being strategic about like how I train, how I track progress, building in checkpoints along the way. And one thing that I did, because I don't, Nikki's amazing and I trust her, but I like bringing ideas to the table and staying engaged.
that's you.
Yeah, right. I mean, so I got to be true to myself. So I worked with ChatGPT to explore different training frameworks for women in their 50s and gut checked it, gut
You're
checked
so
sort of the
funny.
milestone
Yeah,
pacing and things like that. So, it's a big goal, but it also feels possible. And like 2 years is just a loose time frame. Like, could it be less than that? Could it be more than that? Of course. But I just like the idea of again staying intentional so you know where you're going.
I love it. So do you have a specific goal then for before the end of this year? Like, what do you want to see shift?
Well, haven't really planned that out yet. Nikki and I are meeting in a couple weeks to talk about some of those kind of checkpoint milestones. So I'm sure that fairly soon I'll probably have a sense, okay, like by the end of the year, I'd like to be here at these weights with the big three.
Perfect. And you are doing a photo shoot prep. You're doing a mini cut. Are you still doing barbell lifting? Have you switched to like a recovery phase? Like, has anything shifted, or is it business as usual?
Yeah. So I mean, I think I would love to, obviously I plan to get back to barbell lifting. I'm not really doing much of that right now in sort of, I think we're doing like a recovery type of block right now where there's a lot of unilateral work.
Yeah. So it's called the
So
GPP phase, general
yes, yeah,
physical preparation phase. Yeah. And
yeah,
like you're ironing out the kinks. A lot of times when we're doing this bilateral stuff again and again, very repetitive, we can start to develop some little kinks in the body and one side more dominant than the other. I don't know if you do an alternating grip. Do you do an alternating grip?
yeah, yeah,
So then we can, one hand's pronated and more bicep, the other's, supinated, more bicep, the other one's pronated. And that can affect also potentially imbalances in the body, in the back, in the shoulders. So you do that unilateral work and you really look at oh, on my
yes,
left side doing a single leg RDL, I'm really hiking over. I can't seem to stay rotated down. And so you're looking for that and you're staying curious. And is there extra work that you want to do to address that? Do you need to do some myofascial release work? Maybe something's gotten kind of sticky. Do you need to do maybe some strengthening work, right? Even strengthening of the feet and ankles.
yeah. I know that's going to be important for me. Like because I definitely have a left right imbalance, right? My right side is dominant, left side is weaker. I notice it on my squat and it's coming out now. Like I'm doing these single leg barbell Bulgarian split squats. I just this morning did like a dumbbell goblet lateral squat, which it was just like so it's just so hard for someone like me with these really long femurs and like I got to use like a super wide stance and it's just really awkward and that because I'm going for depth but I am noticing like this difference like I'm weaker on the left. So it's I know they're good for me. Like sometimes they're very very hard but I just know they're good for my training.
They're so good for the training. Yeah, it's a really important phase to do. And then obviously communicating with your coach always because you're in your body and things are fresh. I always tell my athletes, communicate to me stuff in the chat so I really see it and I can put it into your training notes. But you may want to keep certain things in for a while. So even past that GPP phase, you might want to keep in certain unilateral work in, and you're going to want to not just see strength change, but maybe you really want to see mobility improvements and even how you're feeling as you're doing the thing. Like, oh, it feels now pretty much the same left and right.
Yes. And
So
one thing that I also want to mention for anyone listening is that one thing that I felt was really, really critical as I was lifting heavier and getting stronger was foam rolling. And just every day, I really, really feel strongly that really helped me from
do you use a smooth foam
getting
roller or
injured
the
throughout the
rumble roller?
process. I have like a couple of different types. I've got the black one. I've got this like the one with the
The
bumps
knobbly
on
one?
it. Yeah, I have
Do you
a
use a
softball
Okay, I was
too
going to say,
that I
do you use the ball
use.
as well to get in there
Yeah.
and unstick
I
yourself?
also have this stick that can help you like get into your
I've seen
back and
those.
like your upper back.
What
That
about the
was really
gun? Do you use
helpful.
the gun, the Theragun?
I have a gun, but I don't really like it. I gotta say.
Is it hard to use on yourself, or you don't like how it feels?
I just don't like the way it feels. Yeah, I don't like the vibrating feel of it.
Gotcha.
But
do you do anything else, like a heating pad? Do you do red light therapy? Anything like that?
No, none of that. I think I just got actually when I made the switch from Coach Annie to Nikki, it just happened to be that she had a team call where we went over foam rolling, and I was like, yeah, actually, I'm not doing this enough. I really should. And honestly, now, I mean, not only do I do it regularly, but anytime I feel a little bit of something, I foam roll it. And I just feel like it's
that sounds like a reel, right? The answer is foam roll it. Taxes late, foam roll it.
I know. It just has been so good for me. It's been really, really helpful.
Let's take a final, 5-10 minutes if you have time. Do you have time? I know you've got a hectic schedule. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Let's take another 5-10 and just talk a little bit about how injury, because I know you did get injured, and who hasn't got injured? I mean, athletes, we get injured. We try to avoid mindlessly getting injured. But it does happen. And let's talk about how that was a wake-up call and how it shifted things for you. So take us back to your injury. So those that are, because a lot of people are afraid, right? They're 50 years old, whatever, and they're afraid to get started and they're afraid of injury. And so let's talk about that.
Sure. So back in September of 2024, I was warming up for a set of deadlifts. I was doing like a set of 8 at like 195, very doable for me. My lower back wasn't feeling quite right. Like I just, it just kind of felt off. It felt uncomfortable, but I shook it off because sometimes you get through the warm-ups and it does end up feeling kind of better.
Were you wearing a belt?
I was wearing a belt. And so I just thought I would power through it. But then 3 reps in, I felt this real kind of burning kind of twinge in that area. And I just had to stop deadlifting. Now, I was able to continue with the rest of my workout. I managed to get through it. But honestly, I think what made it 10 times worse was that, as you know, I do a lot of dancing. And at the time, I was working on a dance project. I'd been working on it for months. It was a recreation of Michael Jackson's Thriller. And the filming was the very next day. And so I woke up that day, I don't know, feeling uncomfortable, but not terrible. I took some ibuprofen. I powered through it. I was uncomfortable, but it wasn't terrible. And then I'm sure that I just made it that much worse because gradually throughout the week, the pain just got worse and worse. So I couldn't even really walk down the street. And I later learned that it was a tear in my annulus fibrosis, which is sort of the coating of the spinal cord, and at the lowest part of my lumbar spine, but thankfully no disc herniation or anything more serious.
Lucky. I wonder. This is something I was talking about during my interview. Dehydration. There's 2 things that happen as we get older. One is just being less hydrated. And so even though there's a part of our tissues that just, as we get older, but men and women, we experiencing that, we also want to make sure as athletes that we are very hydrated and we're making sure that we're taking our electrolytes, whether that's food-wise, I salt a lot. So making sure that that's on par, and then making sure you're warming up properly. And we have to warm up a little bit longer as we get older. And then the other thing too is just that there is also for women, as we go through menopause, we got that drop in estrogen, and there's a shift as well with, for lack of a better word, how juicy our ligaments and our muscles are. And so just being aware of that too. So when we do feel off, right, I treat that intuitive off very seriously now, because I have been hit hard by the dragon's tail like you have, and it's not worth. I'll just go do leg presses or something. I'm like, something feels weird. I'm just gonna do leg presses.
Yeah. So I actually misspoke. The annulus is actually the outer layer of the disc, and so I do think it was probably it's very easy to injure that. and I probably was dehydrated. But what really made it hard was that very soon after that, my husband and I left for a trip to
Oh,
to
God.
Turkey. And so
Ouch.
physically, like it was really terrible. Like I was sitting on that long plane ride. I couldn't lift my bags. I couldn't really bend over to tie my shoes.
And it's that
I
chronic
was trying to
niggling kind of
walk
pain, right?
around. It was just like it was awful. It was just so hard to go from like being like fully functional and feeling strong and then like having this incredible setback. Like I'm just not a person
And
like
you weren't doing anything. Like you were doing a
yeah,
weight that was like, like what, an RP7?
yeah, yeah. And so mentally it was hard, I don't like that feeling of feeling like I'm behind, right? I'm behind. I'm not keeping up. I'm like starting from square one. And
Which is not
so
true.
yeah, exactly. So but it was a wake up call for sure. And now I think about those things and to your point about just the warm ups, like that was one thing where even though like in the lead up to the powerlifting meet, my workouts in terms of sets and reps were fairly short, right? And like sort of low reps, maybe smaller amounts of sets as we got close to the meet. It was those warm ups, right? I spent a ton of time warming up because, when you're lifting that heavy, I just wanted to make sure that my body was ready. So it gave me respect for that for sure.
I even think of things now that I'm older, now that I'm 54, like I don't sit as much. So if I'm doing heavy work, I'm kind of almost a little bit paranoid of like sitting. When we have those in powerlifting, strength training, we do these long 3-minute rest periods, maybe even 5 minutes if it's a deadlift 1RM, like taking a long break, make sure our creatine phosphates, back to where we want it to be. And we're just really rested. And I don't like to sit because I'm like, like the idea of anything not being really juicy and fluid. So I like to like move a little bit, stay more in a standing position and just really stay fluid more. So thinking about that too, thinking about, I don't know about you, I think a lot about my pelvic floor now, even as a woman
Yes.
who hasn't had kids, that still can age. And so just making sure I'm engaged properly. So you said yes. What do you do for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just something I think about a lot. I know, and I have had a couple of kids, and um, so it's just something that I don't have issues with it now, but I certainly don't. I want to protect my body so that I don't develop those issues.
I was talking with a client who had a little bit of incontinence, her first time ever doing barbell hip thrusts, and she hasn't had kids. And I mean, she's in her, I think she's 49, and I said to her, "Well, do you have any other signs of GSM, right?" And she said, "Well, I can't really tell because hasn't been." She hasn't had an active sexual life. And, gals that are listening to this are probably going to identify with this. And I said, well, it's something that's worthwhile to check out because, the genital urinary symptoms of menopause, they're progressive. And early intervention with something like vaginal estrogen, it's not systemic if you're concerned about that. You don't have to oppose it with progesterone. It's not considered MHT, but it's very, very beneficial for that, and lubrication won't help with that. And the positives are, of course, the health of your pelvic floor. It's not just about whether or not you can have intercourse. It's that the health of the tissues in that area, and things like incontinence can start to percolate if you do, or if you're someone who is affected that way. So I hope that was clear cut for people. I don't want everyone to get worried.
Yeah.
But we don't talk enough about the health of the tissues in that area, and it's important to keep track of that because it's relatively easy to intervene early, and you don't want to leave that too late. So.
Yeah, well, when you said, it's something we don't talk enough about, like there is one thing related to injury that I don't think we talk enough about as a strength training community, and that's balancing the advice that we get. Because on the one hand, we're told more and more these days, right? As women, you've got to lift heavy, you've got to go for progressive overload, you've got to go hard. But on the other hand, we're also told listen to your body, you prioritize recovery, like don't push when it doesn't feel right. And I think for a long time, like I found that very confusing, And so so after that injury, I knew I had to get clearer for myself. Like, what does that mean for me day to day? And so I've been asking a lot of people that I respect, like how they strike that balance. And I talked it over with Nikki, who gave me like the simplest but the best advice. And she says she tells herself, don't be dumb. Do not be dumb. And so that's become one of my mantras, right? It's really, it means so much more than that. It's like, be in tune with how I'm feeling. Don't chase numbers at the expense of my body or just to check the boxes, right? Because I love to check off those boxes. But don't be dumb is this reminder that, like, listen, I'm in this for the
I'm
for the
going
long
to
game.
bugger about that. Don't be
Right?
dumb. We need to get a
Don't be
t-shirt for Nikki.
dumb.
Don't be dumb.
It means training with intention, making adjustments with intention, like, and think about the long game. It honestly, like, it just,
Live
it
to
was like an
lift
aha
another
moment for me.
day. Live to lift another
Yes.
day,
Yes.
right? If I don't get this
Absolutely.
number today, I can get it tomorrow. If you're not
Yeah.
feeling it, I like to prioritize my, certain lists. And it's like, if I don't feel 100%, I was telling this to one of my clients who's a phenomenal bench presser and she can't really lift heavy with her lower body. And I said, that's your big day. So if you're getting off the plane, you shift that lift, go do your lower body, sit on the leg extension or whatever, shift your bench to Friday when you're you're hydrated again, blah, blah. So, you have that flexibility. That is not set in stone. What's set in stone is you being in attunement with your body and your goals and what levers can I pull so I can optimize myself this week. And that's a journey.
Yeah.
That's the journey of becoming
Yeah.
that's the journey of becoming an advanced athlete.
Yeah. Yeah. And even like I had a more minor injury sort of like at the end of March where I strained my lat. I was doing some pull-ups and I could feel like this pain down there. And so, here I was like in prep mode for a powerlifting meet and my lat was really bothering me. And so, but Nikki did a great job sort of like adjusting my programming so that it was really taking a lot of pressure off of my lat, like whether it was, I moved to trap bar deadlifts. I did a lot of like feet up bench press. And it was translated over pretty well once I was able to get back to it.
Beautiful. And that's the adjustments that you have to make, really. I mean, injuries, like I said, injuries coming as we get older, the chances go up no matter how many boxes you tick off. So it is important to develop that nuance. Don't be dumb. Like if you're feeling something, live to lift that another day and shift things around. Take more warm-ups potentially. There's lots of ways to progress too. Sometimes I'll just, if my joints are feeling a little bit icky, I'll drop the weight down. I'll do more volume, or I'll do like isometrics or pre-fatigue. Like there's as long as I'm pushing myself to that failure, it doesn't happen a lot, but I know enough to pull that tool out of my back pocket, and then I avoid doing something heavy where I'm a little bit compromised, not quite feeling 100%, and then pow, that's when you have those little snaps and needles happening. And like, as I said, as we get older, the tissues just are not as deeply hydrated. Our recovery goes down. That's the same for both men and women. And so we just want to, we want to be smarter about noticing and then pivoting.
Yeah, it's really changed the way I look at my training, for sure.
Let's tie it up here. I mean, we covered so much, Lena. I'm so excited for you. When I heard in the pipeline that you were going to do a meet, I'm like, damn, that's perfect goal for you, and also just such a great example for other people in the community. A lot of times people get really hung up on just wanting to do a competition, which is a fabulous goal, but there's so much else out there. And I think strength training and having a strength goal and being out of your comfort zone, being in a competition, they're so joyful, strength competitions. And I'm glad that you did that. And I know that you're a big champion of the community. And I thank you for that. And so people listen to you, right? You're a real influencer in our community, that's for sure. So I have a lot of gratitude that you are so willing to share your journey and all of it.
It's been just so rewarding to be part of it. And honestly, like, I'm inspired by so many other women in this community. Everybody is sort of shining in their own way. And it's
True.
just been so gratifying to see all of that.
It is great. So we'll see you in Toronto. We'll see you at the Coco King shoot.
Yeah. I'm so looking forward to that.
That's like
Putting together
10
my
weeks away or
outfits.
something.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get a lifting session in. That'd be fun.
Oh yeah, I would love that. I would love that.
All right. Thank you so much. And guys, thanks for joining us on this episode. And if you're interested in powerlifting, you can go and find your local meet where you live.